Here is the comprehensive, deep dive summary of The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. The book actually contains 20 chapters. Below is a detailed narrative script covering every single chapter. Sit back and enjoy. Introduction: The greatest show on earth. The central thesis of this book is unique. Morgan Housel argues that doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. We tend to teach finance like it's a hard science, like physics or math. In physics, if you know the mass of an object and the force applied, you know exactly where it will go. But finance isn't physics. It's psychology. It's a soft skill. In finance, the variables are human emotions: fear, greed, pride, and envy. This book is about the soft skills of money. Chapter 1, No One's Crazy, the Concept. Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.1% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 88 of how you think the world works. We all think we are rational, but we aren't. We are products of our specific history. The illustration: think about the stock market. If you were born in 1950, the stock market went nowhere virtually your entire youth. By the time you were 30, you likely thought the stock market was a scam, a place where money goes to die. If you were born in 1910, the S&P increased tenfold during your youth. By the time you were 30, you likely thought the market was a wealth-generating machine. When a crash happens, the 1950 person sells out of confirmed fear, and the 1970 person buys out of learned optimism. Neither is crazy. They are just operating on different data sets. Key takeaway: don't judge people for their financial decisions. You don't know their history. Chapter 2, Luck and Risk, the Concept. Luck and risk are siblings. They are the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. We love to say, "I worked hard, so I succeeded." But sometimes you work hard and fail, risk. Sometimes you do nothing and win, luck. The illustration: Bill Gates and Kent Evans. In 1968, Bill Gates went to Lakeside School, one of the only high schools in the world with a computer. If he hadn't gone there, there is no Microsoft. That is 1 in a million luck. At that school, Gates had a best friend named Kent Evans. They were equally brilliant and shared the same dreams. But before graduation, Kent Evans died in a mountaineering accident. The odds of that were 1 in a million. That is risk. Same drive, same intelligence. Different outcomes due to cosmic forces. Key takeaway: be careful who you praise and who you condemn. Focus less on specific individuals, who may be outliers, and more on broad patterns. Chapter 3, Never Enough, the Concept. There is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. If you keep wanting more, you will eventually take a risk that ruins you. The illustration: Rajat Gupta. Rajat Gupta was the CEO of McKinsey & Company. He was worth $100 million. He had everything: freedom, reputation, wealth. But he hung out with billionaires and he felt poor. He wanted to be a billionaire. So he engaged in insider trading. He was caught and went to prison. He lost his reputation and his fortune. He risked everything he needed for money he didn't need. Key takeaway: learn to say, "I have enough." Chapter 4, Compounding, the Concept. Our brains cannot handle exponential growth. We think linearly: 1, 2, 3, 4. Compounding is exponential: a 2, 2, 4, or 8, 16. The illustration: the Ice Ages. Scientists used to think the Ice Ages were caused by massive celestial events. It turns out they are caused by a tiny wobble in the Earth's axis. This wobble made summers slightly cooler. The snow didn't melt completely. A thin layer of ice was left over. The next winter, snow fell on that ice. The next summer it stayed. Over thousands of years, that tiny leftover ice compounded into continental glaciers. You don't need a big event to create a massive result. You just need a small result that never disappears. The Warren Buffett fact: $81.5 billion Warren Buffett's $84.5 billion net worth that came after his 65th birthday. His secret isn't that he's a better stock picker than you. It's that he has been investing for 75 years. Key takeaway: shut up and wait. Time is the most powerful force in investing. Chapter 5, Getting Wealthy to Staying Wealthy. The concept. These are two different skills. Getting wealthy requires taking risks, being optimistic, and putting yourself out there. Staying wealthy requires the opposite: paranoia, humility, and a fear that it can all be taken away. The illustration. Jesse Livermore was one of the greatest traders ever. In 1929, he shorted the market crash and made 100 million in a day. He was the richest man in the world. Abraham Germansky was a real estate millionaire who lost everything in the 1929 crash and committed suicide. Livermore had gotten wealthy, but he lacked the paranoia to stay wealthy. He kept taking huge risks, thinking he was invincible. 4 years later, Livermore lost everything and also took his own life. Key takeaway. Survival is the only thing that matters. You need a margin of safety. Chapter 6, Tails, You Win the Concept. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. This is the power law. In finance, the tails, the rare outlier events, drive everything. The illustration, Disney. In the mid-1930s, Disney Studios produced 400 cartoons. Most lost money. The studio was broke. Then they produced Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It made $8 million in 1938. That one tail event paid off all the previous debts and funded the company for decades. When you look at a successful investor, you are looking at someone who has a few massive winners that cover up a graveyard of failures. Key takeaway. If you lose money on 50% of your trades, you aren't a failure. You just need your winners to be big enough to matter. Chapter 7, Freedom. The concept. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. Money's greatest intrinsic value is not the stuff it buys, but the control over your time it provides. The illustration, the gerontologist. When elderly people are interviewed about what mattered in their lives, not a single one says, I wish I had worked more to buy a nicer boat. They all talk about time. Time with kids, time to think, time to choose. Having a small amount of wealth means you can take a sick day. Having more means you can wait for a good job rather than taking the first one offered. Having more means you can retire. Key takeaway. Use money to buy freedom, not things. Chapter 8, Man in the Car Paradox. The concept. You think you want the expensive car. You actually want the respect you think the car brings. The illustration. When you see a guy driving a Ferrari, you don't think, wow, that guy is cool. You think, wow, if I had that car, people would think I am cool. You are ignoring the driver, and when you are the driver, people will ignore you. They are looking at the car. Key takeaway. If you want respect and admiration, be kind and humble. A Ferrari won't get you there. Chapter 9. Wealth is what you don't see. The concept. Rich is current income. Wealth is income not spent. Rich, driving a $100,000 car means you have $100,000 less than you did before. It is visible. Wealth, the money sitting in the bank, compounding. It is invisible. The problem is that we learn by imitation. We can see rich, so we imitate spending. We cannot see wealth, so we struggle to imitate saving. Key takeaway. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. Chapter 10, Save Money. The concept. Building wealth has little to do with your income or investment returns, and lots to do with your savings rate. You cannot control the stock market. You cannot fully control your salary. You can control your savings rate. The illustration. In the 1970s, we thought we would run out of oil. We didn't. Why? We became more energy efficient. We got more miles per gallon. Personal finance is the same. If you can be happy with less efficiency, you create a gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is wealth. Key takeaway. Save. You don't need a specific goal to save. Just save for the sake of saving, to buy yourself protection from the unknown. Chapter 11. Reasonable, rational. The concept. Aim to be reasonable, not coldly rational. Academic finance says you should always do the mathematically optimal thing. But we are emotional creatures. If the optimal strategy makes you panic and sell during a crash, it isn't optimal. The illustration, the fever. Biologically, a fever is your body fighting an infection. Technically, you shouldn't treat a fever. You should let it burn the virus. That is rational. But being miserable with a fever hurts, so we take Tylenol. It might extend the illness by a few hours, but it makes us comfortable. Investing is the same. Maybe paying off your mortgage is mathematically wrong because stocks earn more than your mortgage interest. But if paying off your house makes you sleep better at night, do it. Key takeaway: the best financial plan is the one you can actually stick to. Chapter 12, Surprise the Concept. History is the study of change, ironically used as a map of the future. We rely on data to predict the future. But the most important events in history, the Great Depression, World War II, 9/11, COVID, were things that had never happened before. The illustration: if you were modeling risk in the year 2000, you wouldn't have included terrorists flying planes into towers in your model because it had never happened. But that one event changed the global economy for 20 years. The most dangerous risks are the ones we can't predict because they haven't happened yet. Key takeaway: avoid over-reliance on past data. The future will not look like the past. Chapter 13, Room for Error. The concept: you must plan on your plan, not going according to plan. Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, called this the margin of safety. The illustration: blackjack card counters in blackjack know they have a statistical edge, but they don't bet every dollar they have on one hand. Why? Because even with the odds in their favor, they could still lose that specific hand. They bet small enough that a bad hand won't wipe them out. You might think the stock market will return 8% per year, but can you survive if it returns 4% or 10% for 3 years? Key takeaway: cash is not a bad investment. It is the oxygen that keeps you alive when the fire sucks the air out of the room. Chapter 14, You'll Change the Concept. The End of History Illusion. We are terrible at predicting our future selves. We think the person we are today is the person we will be forever. We are wrong. The illustration: young people paid to remove the tattoos that teenagers paid to get. Middle-aged people rush to divorce the spouses that young adults rush to marry. When you make a long-term financial plan, like a 30-year mortgage or a retirement plan, realize that you in 20 years might want totally different things than you today. Key takeaway: avoid extreme financial decisions like extreme frugality or extreme spending. Aim for balance because your goals will likely shift. Chapter 15, Nothing's Free. The concept: everything has a price, but not all prices appear on labels. The price of investing success is not money. It is volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. The illustration: if you want a nice watch, you have to pay $500. You can pay it or steal it and run. In the stock market, the fee for high returns is the pain of watching your portfolio drop 30% sometimes. Many investors try to avoid this fee by timing the market, jumping in and out. They are trying to steal the watch, but the market police usually catch them. Key takeaway: view market volatility as a fee for admission, not a fine for doing something wrong. Chapter 16, You and Me. The concept: beware of taking financial cues from people playing a different game than you. The illustration: bubbles. During the dot-com bubble, day traders were buying stocks at insane prices. A long-term investor looked at that and said, "That's crazy." But the day trader wasn't crazy. He only needed the stock to go up for 1 hour. The price made sense for his game. The problem arises when the long-term investor starts copying the day trader, not realizing they are playing a different game. Key takeaway: know your time horizon. Don't let a day trader persuade you to sell your 30-year retirement portfolio. Chapter 17, The Seduction of Pessimism. The concept: optimism sounds like a sales pitch. Pessimism sounds like someone is trying to help you. The illustration: if I tell you everything will be great in 10 years, you shrug. If I tell you there is a hurricane coming that will wipe out your bank account, you listen intently. Evolution has wired us to react to threats immediately. Pessimism is intellectually seductive. It sounds smarter than optimism. But historically, optimism is the winning bet because people solve problems and the world gets better over time. Key takeaway: optimism is the belief that the odds are in your favor over time, even if there are setbacks along the way. Chapter 18, when you'll believe anything. The concept, stories are more powerful than statistics. When we desperately want something to be true, we will believe any story that tells us it is possible. The illustration, after World War I, Germany was broken. The people were desperate. Along came a man who told them a story. You are the master race and your problems are caused by others. It was a horrific lie, but because they were desperate, they believed it. In finance, if you are broke and desperate, you will believe the scammer who says he can double your money in a week. Key takeaway: the more you want something to be true, the more likely you are to believe a story that overestimates the odds of it being true. Chapter 19, all together now. This chapter is a summary of the previous chapters. Housel lists short, actionable bullet points. Go out of your way to find the humility when things go right and forgiveness when they go wrong. Less ego, more wealth. Manage your money in a way that helps you sleep at night. If you want to do better as an investor, the single most powerful thing you can do is increase your time horizon. Become okay with a lot of things going wrong. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. Use money to gain control over your time. Be nicer and less flashy. No one is impressed with your possessions as much as you are. Save, just save. You don't need a specific reason. Chapter 20, Confessions. The concept. What does the author actually do with his own money? Housel admits his strategy might not be optimal mathematically, but it works for him. 1. High savings rate. He saves a high percentage of his income. 2. Independence. He owns his house outright, no mortgage. Is this smart with low interest rates? No, but it gives him peace of mind. 3. Cash heavy. He keeps a lot of cash, around 20% of his assets, as a safety net. 4. Index funds. He does not pick stocks. He buys low-cost index funds and leaves them alone. He wants to capture the market's return without the stress of trying to beat it. Key takeaway: there is no one right answer. The right answer is whatever lets you sleep at night and stick to the plan for decades. Conclusion: the psychology of money teaches us that finance is not about being a spreadsheet wizard. It is about understanding your own mind. It is about checking your ego, recognizing the role of luck, and realizing that the ultimate goal of money is not to buy a Ferrari, but to buy you the freedom to live the life you want. Please help me to increase the reach for my channel. Subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get the notification whenever a new book summary is uploaded. Thank you for listening and watching.